Kendrew. Now, I first met Conor about 3 years ago when I was doing a permaculture design course, and Conor was then he was a volunteer at the community orchard in Newquay, and he was also at Cornwall College. And I believe he had his epiphany moment when he did a geography field trip to Studland Heath, where he realised how amazing nature and the earth and geology and the soil was. And the thing you'll notice about Conor is his boundless enthusiasm for nature and for growing things. He's just one of those people that you can't help but be sort of infected by his amazing joy in the natural world. And having had his epiphany moment, he went on to do a foundation degree in applied ecology, a BSc in environmental resource management, and a research degree in sustainable environmental management. And he's a STEM coordinator for Cornwall College Group, which is science, technology, engineering, and maths. And I believe he also throws an A in somewhere, so he's for art. So he's a STEAM coordinator. So I'd like to introduce you to the wonderful Conor Kendrew, who's going to do our introduction, then he'll be back on again later.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Green Truro Festival 2021. My name's Conor, and today I'm going to give you a quick overview of our subject for the day. You'll remember that last year we were talking about trees. We had our heads up in the canopies, talking about the fantastic benefits for our environment and for us that our woody friends can bring. Well, this year we're looking below our feet. This year we're looking at soils. They're a dynamic system. Lots of people study them and lots of people take interest in them. And through today, hopefully you're going to find out how they could be our answer to many societal and environmental issues. So without further ado, I'm going to give you a 5-minute crash course in soil science and soil health. So here we go. Let's get straight into it. What is soil? How do we define it and pin it down? Well, it's not just compost and earthworms, and it's not just rock dust. Soil is, in fact, a dynamic natural body. It consists of 4 different things which can exist in different quantities in different soils. But to average things out, we tend to say that soil is 45% minerals, okay? Those minerals come from the parent material, the rock below, okay? Or the rock that has been deposited through erosion. Now, those minerals can be broke down into sands, silts, and clays, which I'll come on to talk about in just a second a little bit more. Now, that's the first of 4 constituent parts, and it's also the first of the 2 physical mass parts of the soil. The next physical mass part of the soil is a 5% of organic material and organisms. Now, although that's 5%, seems like a small sliver on a pie, that 5% does a lot of work. And I can guarantee you that 5% will be talked about a lot today, proportionally a lot more. Now that takes up the bulk of the soil, the physical parts. And now we need to look at what the rest of the soil is, okay? There's a whole nother 50% to look at here. Now, that other side of soil is the parts that fill the pore space. And with that in mind, we've got the air in the soil, which can be a quarter up to a third and even way less. And we've also got the water in the soil. Okay, so the pore space in soil is constantly at a balance and a movement between having air and water in it. Okay, so that's those 4 things. We've got water, we've got air, we've got minerals, and we've got biological material, both decomposed and active biological material, organic matter. So that's the soil as a whole. Now, as with many things in the natural world, the whole is much greater than the sum of the parts here. And when we look at those 4 things together, soils perform a great number of ecological and environmental functions for both nature and us as a society. Soils very obviously are an important medium for plant growth, okay? Aquaponic systems and things like that do get around it, but in the natural world, across broad acreage, Plants grow in soil and are dependent on it. Soils are also the ultimate recycling system. They recycle nutrients and organic wastes, and they drive many of our atmospheric cycles as well as our carbon cycle and our nitrogen cycle. Soils actually play a much larger part in modifying the atmosphere and controlling the climate than most people give them credit for. And I'm sure that's something that will be talked about today. Soils are also a very important habitat for soil organisms. The diversity of life that exists in the soil is absolutely huge, and the microbiomes within the soil have massive crossovers into our own health and also the health of our food systems. Now, soils are also a system for water supply and water purification. There is no better natural system for filtering water to make it cleaner and make it more effective for society and nature. And finally, soils are also an important and ever-used engineering medium. We live in the soil, we build our houses and our foundations in the soil, we build dams out of soil, and we construct our roads on the soil. Of course, just like me today, we also grow our own vegetables in the soil. So as well as growing ecosystems, they also grow our cabbages. Now, soils are not the same the world over. Some soils exist in wetter regions, some soils exist in drier regions on the top of ridges, some soils are down in the bottom of valleys. Some soils are developed under forests, some are under prairies, and some are in deserts. Of course, you've also got to factor in the massive geodiversity that really forms that baseline within which soils are created upon. Now, in order to encompass the massive difference in soils and the diversity of soils, people have gotten into a system of classifying them. Now, one of the simplest ways to classify soils is by the proportion of the mineral parts in the soil. Okay, and I'll just bring up the classic soil classification or soil texture triangle for you now. The proportions of clays, silts and sands within the soil make us able to determine whether we have a sandy loam, a sandy soil, a clay loam, a heavy clay soil, and also how we may expect that soil to perform in nature. Now, soil classification is quite useful when we use that kind of a classification, but it does not stop there. People also look at the way that soil is arranged vertically. They look at the horizons of the soil. Okay, so we've got the organic horizon, we've got the A horizon, the topsoil, we've got the B horizon, and so on and so forth. Now, those different horizons, they're different depths, they're different textures, and the different things that make them up allow us to actually globally classify soils into different groups. So there it is. We've had a look at how soils are defined, how soils perform functions for environment and society, and also how people go around the world classifying soils. There's one final thing for me to talk about, and that is to outline how soil is a system that responds to our understanding of it and the ways in which we manage it. We and our interaction with soil has a big impact on soil health and soil quality. That being the ability for soils to perform those functions that I spoke about earlier. If we mismanage a soil, particularly if we mistreat that organic portion of the soil, we could open the doors for massive erosion, huge outgassing of greenhouse gases, and the inability for the nutrients to be cycled within the soil to give us agriculturally productive land, for example. But if we learn how to clue in and to work with soil ecology, how to work with the bacteria, the earthworms, the fungi, the hydrozoa, protozoa, the nematodes, the soil food web, well, then we could start a revolution beneath our feet. We could start to work with the land that we're on, work with ecological processes, and everyone will benefit as a result. Now, I'm sure that's going to be a big focus of today, and it's certainly one of the areas of soil science and soil studies that interest me very deeply. So hopefully everything I've talked about so far hasn't been too much for you, and it's helped you on your way to a big day of learning. Thank you very much for having me at the conference today. I'm looking forward to hearing all the talks and seeing all the talks. I'll see you later.
Thank you so much, Conor. That was absolutely brilliant. And I think it reminds us that actually the Earth, the planet rather, could go on quite happily without us, but it couldn't go on without the earthworms.